May 3rd, 1560. Dear Mother, it has been 3 days since you left, and the pain is still unbearable. Worry not, my heart is trying to heal, but the pain gets harder to swallow each day. I still remember your last wish to me, and that was to visit the prosperous city of Florence. I will fulfill this wish so that we can visit the city together. Today embarks my first travel on sea to the city of Florence from China, and for the first time my heart feels warm. I am excited. Word on the street is that Florence is the most prosperous city right now, and they just got back on their feet. Apparently, scholars are calling it the Renaissance. The word Renaissance means rebirth. For the Florentines, it was the rebirth in interest in classical art and learning from the ancient Greek and Romans. Greek and Roman culture influenced it by way of art and architecture. Sometimes the classical culture was directly copied by Renaissance sculptors or painters, and other times it influenced them. I read from a scholar scribe that Renaissance painters have a realism quality to their painting. Realism is the feature or fact of representing a person in a way that makes it true to life. The scribe also mentioned that a new philosophy has just been developed, humanism, the areas of study that focus on human life and culture. They believe in the worth of an individual and their ability to do great things. Naturally, because of this philosophy, beliefs have been formed. One of such is individualism, the belief of the importance and dignity in each individual, such as the ability to control their lives and achieve greatness. Essentially, it was a new thought that claimed that the government didn't have power over them. It seems that all this writing has made time fly so fast. By tomorrow, I should have arrived to the city of Florence. May 4th, 1560, Day 2. I woke up to the sound of the ship's large bugle horn. At last, I have arrived to the city of Florence. It's amazing, Mother. Towers reach toward the skies beyond your wildest dreams. There's one building in particular that seems bigger and bolder than the rest, the Duomo di Santa Maria del Fiore. Perhaps I will be visiting this great cathedral sometime soon. On the city streets, there are bustling marketplaces, with merchants offering deals as people walk by. I see all kinds of goods being sold, such as fine woolen cloth and everyday goods like vegetables, fruits, and so much more. Homes are lined along the streets in a similar fashion. Sculptures on the sidewalks simply add to the city's gratifying view. I can smell the warmth of bread miles away, the freshness of fruits, and the rawness of vegetables. The aroma only adds to my desiring want of food. I smell the fresh air that travels along those streets from the ocean's wave. I stopped by a nearby restaurant to get a taste of this delicious food. The bread tasted a fine silkiness as every bit of its flour melted down in my mouth. Their pasta had a nice texture to it, and the slipperiness of its structure slid down my throat. The tasty spices that went along with this dish only added to its great flavor. I stepped back outside to return to the mesmerizing city of Florence. I could hear the hammering sounds for the construction of a new building project. The workers looked tired and hungry, but they persisted on. Towards the sea, I heard a boat arriving on the deck, carrying loads of valuable goods. Suddenly, a merchant's goods caught my eye. He was selling some of the finest cloths that I had ever seen. A single touch left me breathless for a moment. Its fine fabric soothed every vein in my finger, and it made me fall in love with it completely. I walked further along the streets until I was in the front yard of the Duomo di Santa Maria del Fiore. I touched its framework, and it felt rigid and hard. You could tell that it was constructed with great effort and mind. Its gratifying structure continues to amaze me. Perhaps this will be the first stop on my visit to the city of Florence. Right now, I must get a good night's sleep to prepare for the wonders of tomorrow. May 5th, 1560, Day 3. I woke up a little merrier than usual. I got dressed, skipped around a bit, and got ready to visit the great cathedral of Florence, the Duomo di Santa Maria del Fiore. I walked inside, and my every step echoed against its bare walls. There appeared to be a gathering of people who were following a tour guide, so I reluctantly followed along. The tour guide explained that the Florentines started building this 8-sided cathedral in 1296, but they had to leave an opening for the dome. This was because at the time, they did not have the knowledge on how to build a large enough dome that wouldn't collapse. In fact, the credit really goes to one Renaissance architect, Filippo Brunelleschi. His studies of the ancient ruins in Rome and in mathematics highly contributed to his success in his architectural piece. The dome that he had created had no internal support beams or columns, but instead had arches that met at the top of the dome and leaned against each other. The tour guide continued on to mention that hoops of iron, wood, and brick wrapped around the arches to keep them secured. This was a purely engineering genius piece of work, if I do say so myself. Brunelleschi definitely had a mind much ahead of his time, and I was truly amazed. To stimulate the dome and its structure, there was a station at the museum that allowed us to learn of the inner structure of the dome. In groups of 4, we were each handed a marble ball that we held up using our arms. Our feet were spread equally apart in the shape of a hexagon. I noticed that in my group's dome, our arms supported most of the weight, like the stone arches. Our feet acted as the base of the dome. The marble ball of our dome was like the lantern. And finally, our bodies were similar to the outer part of Brunelleschi's dome. I was quite astonished of how much a resemblance was presented by the stimulation to the actual thing. I say that with much regret, this day has come to an end. I had so much fun and will never forget this joyful experience. Oh, how I wish you were here, Mother. May 6, 1560, Day 4. With so much to see in such little time, I was a bit puzzled of what I should have visited today. I eventually made an executive decision to choose the Piazza della Signoria. A scholar there explained to me that this is the plaza home to some of the most prized expression of Renaissance genius in Florence. One of such is Donatello's David, along with Michelangelo's David. Donatello's David was so natural and lifelike that it was almost impossible to imagine that it was constructed of mankind. This statue is considered to be the first life-size nude statue since classical times. Michelangelo's David, on the contrary, is possibly the world's most widely admired sculpture. The scholar continued on to mention that this sculpture was constructed purely of white marble and stands 17 feet tall. It reflects humanist ideas and is the ideal of male beauty. Its presence is so mesmerizing and beautiful that it makes your heart skip a beat. His statue continued on to inspire many other artists. Both of these statues were so stunning and stellar that my eyes gleamed with such amazement and content. Later on within the visit, the scholar allowed us to make sketches of these two masterpieces and observe their differences. I noted that the structure of these two sculptures were definitely different, and I believe that these two artists had different views of the same person. Despite this, I can for sure see the influence from Donatello's David to Michelangelo's David, for they do consist some similarities, especially in the faces. Today, my breath was taken away by two of the world's masterpieces in sculpture. These two examples can only begin to draw on the fact that the Renaissance sculptors were so advanced for their time, and they are truly visionaries of the world. I say that it's come to a day's end of exploring. Are you enjoying the view from up there, Mother? May 7th, 1560, Day 5. I'm so sad to say that it has almost reached the end of my visit to the wonderful city of Florence. I decided to conclude my visit by going back to the very streets of how I arrived. I heard that there were 2 market centers in the city, and I would gladly like to make an effort to visit both. Remember when we used to walk through the markets of China, Mother? Those memories will always be in a special place of my heart. Anyways, I figured it was time for me to go and buy something out there. So I went to the nearest bank and exchanged the money that I brought from China for 5 florins, the currency. Visit the Mercato Vecchio, or Old Market first. Here, people buy everyday items like vegetables, fruits, bread, fish, meat, medicine, and shoes. However, I must admit that I found the place crowded, noisy, and smelly. Nevertheless, I bought a bag of salt and a sack of grain that costed a total of 2 florins. These 2 goods could make an appetizing meal. With my remaining florins, I then traveled to the Mercato Nuovo, or New Market, that I heard was just built recently. City officials banned food and weapons from this new market since they wanted it to be clean and orderly as to symbolize that commerce was highly prized in Florence. Here, many others, like myself, traveled far and wide to be part of where all the people were. In this market, I bought a woolen cloak that costed 3 florins, made from the finest of wool. This would keep me warm during the cold nights. At last, my journey to Florence is complete. May 8th, 1560, day 6. I woke up to the ship's large bugle horn once again outside. Like everything in this world, great things must come to an end. With such little time, I gained so much knowledge on the city of Florence. I learned of their advances in engineering/architecture, sculpture, and trade/commerce. The Renaissance is a period that will live on as one of the world's most prized treasures. As I am boarding the ship, I look out to see that I am so grateful to have witnessed such glory and beauty in my eyes. Like its name suggests, the Renaissance was a great time in the flowering of great cultures and much prosperity. I hope you enjoyed your visit with me, Mom. I have finally fulfilled your wish, and at last I am at peace. This will forever be a memory that I will cherish forever. To the city of Florence, I say that I hope to be traveling here again soon and to explore much more of its marvelous features. Goodbye.